Hello, ladies and gentlemen. As always, I'm your host, Airsoft Al, and today I want to talk about a lovely little fanfic. Yes, I know, a fanfiction review is back for 2025, but it's been a hot minute since I've been able to try and get things in order, and a lot has been going on with the move and everything. It's just one of those things. But either way, though, today we'll be taking a look at The City from Somewhere, or as it's also known as A City from Somewhere. However, I'll be looking at the AO3 version because the AO3 version, well, I'd rather support AO3 than fanfiction.net, because fanfiction.net is dying, ladies and gentlemen, whether you want to believe it or not. Now, The City from Somewhere is from the same guy who does Metal Gear Solid Green, which of course is The Dark Knight 2707. All one words, except TDK is capitalized, so TDK 2707. Now, what is this, well, story, more or less? Well, it's from this guy's collection known as the Deku's Multiverse of Madness, but the big thing about it is that this lovely, lovely little thing is legitimately something that's actually kind of cool. It is basically taking the idea of summoning something to another universe, but making it, of course, Gotham City. And while, yes, I would spoil a little bit of it for you, I will at least do a little bit of lightness of this. This takes place about a week since the Sports Festival arc, and basically, Gotham City is transported to the My Hero Academia universe, exactly 300 nautical miles off of Japan's coast. Now, I will be addressing some political elements, considering that The Dark Knight 2707 has actually also done some political stuff as well, which I do actually appreciate in a My Hero Academia fanfiction, actually addressing the politics of it. And I will be addressing it in this fanfiction as well. Now, the big thing here is that this is essentially Gotham during what I want to kind of say during like the Quake arc, or at least the Quake story, where essentially Gotham City is cut off from the rest of the world, both literally politically, state-wise, and everything else in between. And there is a lot going for this, especially the fact of Gotham has been basically broken up into 13 islands. Now, there are a few things, especially the fact of in canon that Gotham is more or less, hey, it is cursed. Legitimately, canon, it's cursed. And if this is going along the lines of, oh, hey, this is now basically during the Quake setup, or at least like the Harley Quinn TV show, where Gotham City is completely cut off from the rest of the world, then essentially the territories are going to be cut up. I mean, hell, Arkham City did the same thing, or at least the Arkham City games, I guess I should say. Got to clarify there, considering how many of the games there are in the Arkham, like, mythos, I think is what it is, Arkham canon. But either way, though, so maybe I'll go into slight spoilers here. All this, the reason this all happened, is because it's the Joker's fault. So yeah, all this is the Joker's fault. Now, the big thing is that this does have the Bat family. This has all the big names in DC, or at least to a degree, mind you. Again, I'm trying not to spoil as much here because legitimately this is a well written out story and well thought out story, and is clearly kind of going in the sense of, I want to say this is doing the Timverse, like DC. There's a lot of that in there, but it's also mixing a lot of the Arkham City elements as well. Now, we can go on to, of course, some things that I can discuss about, especially politically, because again, this is a guy who has written politics before, and legitimately they are good. Now, of course, James Gordon is the only one who's actually leading the essentially Gothamites faction in the city, because the mayor and most of the 1% of Gotham decided to up and fuck off because of what the Joker was doing. Once that happened, it left the police commissioner essentially in charge, meaning that since he's the only political person at that point in time, which he believes so, then Gotham is basically under martial law, or at least as one can be. Now, there is a moment in the story where, of course, the Prime Minister of Japan and, of course, the Prime Minister of Defense, which is basically head of the JSDF, actually does get into a spat with them, and this is where it kind of gets fun, especially with the fact of how quirks are so prevalent. They believe this is a quirk, i.e. a meta power, a metagene. This is not, obviously, from a reader's perspective, but in their minds, not so much. Now, what's going to happen afterwards, and what the author can do going forward? Technically speaking, Gotham, in terms of the map of the U.S., is actually a part of, well, New York, i.e. an American city. And of course, there have been jokes made in the past about the fact of Gotham and Metropolis are literally next to each other. Again, this is something that has been done in the past and legitimately is kind of funny. Now, here's the kicker. Technically speaking, on a international law level, Gotham City is still a U.S. city, i.e. a U.S. territory. As such, they could actually, because again, last part of the chapter, the latest chapter, chapter 6, Lucius Fox has basically set up a communications array to basically contact, well, anyone. And thanks to observations, he knows that they're at least 300 nautical miles from Japan. Now, outside of obviously being able to contact anyone with a ham radio, or a CB radio, basically, or some kind of receiver, they will be able to contact not just military bases, but also, obviously, the U.S. military that's stationed in Japan. The moment that James Gordon makes his broadcast and starts saying that, hey, I'm basically a U.S. citizen, we have been transported, things like that, obviously, the U.S. military, as well as the 7th Fleet, yes, that 7th Fleet, the one that's basically patrolling the Pacific, will pick them up. Which, the moment that the 7th Fleet picks them up and is being told, hey, a U.S. city is under siege by hostile elements, that becomes a U.S. priority. That basically becomes a U.S. issue. And basically here the Public Safety Commission, the HPSC, is a Japanese-only government entity. As in, they need to either respect U.S. boundaries and territory, or piss off the sleeping giant that literally created their nation after we dropped the sun on them twice. Because, again, just a reminder to anyone out there who thinks that, the U.S. is a kind of weak little thing at the moment, even in the My Hero Academia universe, as much as the author kind of pissed me off with that fucking thing, there are 3 rules to the U.S. You don't touch our people, you don't touch our boots, i.e. our soldiers and servicemen and women, and you don't touch our fucking boats. The moment you touch our the moment you do any of that shit, we're going to come in there fucking hard, and we're going to come in there fast, and we are going to wreck shit and just basically cause all sorts of hell for you. Now, with that said, how is this going to play out going forward? Well, what the author can do, because, again, this is depending on what canon's going on, James Gordon is a military veteran, meaning that, technically speaking, he knows what to do and how to deal with the military types. So, the moment he does get in contact with either of the U.S. bases on Japan, which are there, or gets in contact with the 7th Fleet, he can straight up tell him what's going on from a military perspective, because again, he's talked with military folks. He is military. So he can tell them exactly what's going on and how bad it is, and tell them to bring the cavalry. The moment that Japan gets involved, however, and tries to claim anything, which, yes, as much as people want to say, oh, the Hero Public Safety Commission wouldn't do that, no, they are corrupt as all hell. More corrupt than the ATF, more corrupt than the fucking FBI, and more corrupt than the goddamn CIA. They are more corrupt than the KGB after the Soviet Union fell. I could name off more government agencies that are more corrupt than them, but that'd be a long list, and I don't want to air out my grievances for certain government entities and 3-letter agencies that literally suppress rights and take away our rights and our ability to be able to have fun. But either way, though, the big thing, ladies and gentlemen, is that, again, this could create a very good political situation in this story, especially, again, this is a U.S. territory on the Pacific. The U.S. government would get involved heavily. And Japan would basically tell the Hero Public Safety Commission to stand the fuck down. Actually, for once, causing them to be on the back foot, especially the fact of, oh yeah, no, those are U.S. citizens. You don't fucking touch them. And I've rambled on, of course, about the political aspects and the political ramifications that could come about this, but what about the hero aspect? Well, once the world, especially Japan, who has basically grown up with this idea that, oh, they don't like that, or in a sense, they can't do anything unless they had powers, well, they're seeing the Bat family and Batman. And then all these other people, especially once they start reading about the Joker, and they start reading about the Riddler and all these other people, especially. That's when the Hero Public Safety Commission and even the MLA's political image starts kind of faltering. We're going to get to the MLA in a minute, because I think there's a lot of aspects about the MLA, especially Reed Destro and his little cabal, that a lot of people kind of forget about and just basically, hey, you don't understand what you're doing, basically. But I'll get to that in a second. Essentially, what's going to happen is that the narrative that Japan has basically crafted through all this stuff is going to falter and crumble and fall apart. Batman is going to be seen as a symbol of what a real hero is to the downtrodden and the beaten. Essentially, if the author wanted to, he could have it to where the quirkless population of Japan looks at Gotham, and yeah, sure, they have some pretty bad people, but people there are actually treated like people, and as such could actually start a massive immigration to Gotham. The US could see this in this world as, hey, more population, more tax-paying dollars. Fuck it. Yeah, come on to Gotham, come to Gotham. Gotham could see a revitalization. Gotham could basically see a mass influx of people and immigration, and again, Batman could basically work with these heroes and basically create his own thing. There's a lot that can be done with it, and I don't want to really start devolving into it because I have read this author's previous work with Metal Gear Solid Green, and there's a lot of expectations I have with this one, especially when it involves DC. Sorry, that was my phone that you heard in the background. Let me just mute that real quick. Sorry about that, folks. But again, there's a lot of aspects to this that I legitimately do like, especially just the fact of, if he wanted to, there is something that can be said. There's commentary that can be had, especially on the fact of, just because a society tells you that you're one thing does not mean you are not. There are opportunities, and he can even play on the whole aspect of what Lady Liberty has basically written at her statue, about the fact of, give me your huddle masses, your poor, those for whom you've casted out. Essentially, Gotham could be like New York during the mass immigration of the Irish back during the potato famine. And again, there's a lot that can be had here and a lot of commentary that can be had, especially historical aspects of saying history repeats itself. It's definitely something. But again, it's the author's ability to do what they want, which, yeah. Now, how could this affect the My Hero Academia canon going forward? Bringing up the Heroes Public Safety Commission and the MLA. The MLA, with their political connections and political parties, could actually shift gears. They could shift gears and essentially go away from what's going on in canon and essentially start helping the US, basically help promote, just this whole, what Gotham represents, the fact of this city has been thrown into an unimaginable situation, yet, much like the American spirit, they hold themselves up by their bootstraps. Or, again, a lot of actual good internal political turmoil could come from it, especially through them calling out the Hero Public Safety Commission about the fact of, hey, you have too much power, we're going to audit you. Basically kind of play into the idea of like a second Red Scare almost. Especially once they learn about some things. Especially the fact that there's multiverses now. Good God, the multiverse stuff is definitely going to be hell on them. Island is going to freaking fly there like a goddamn moth to a flame just to work with Wayne Industries and work with what's left of any sort of like LexCorp or any other company that's there. And again, it is literally that whole Manifest Destiny type aspect that the author could go with. Dark Knight, if you are watching this, seriously, go with that aspect. Have fun with this. Especially, again, the light politics behind the scenes. Have, like, a McCarthy-style hearings from not just the government itself, but also those of the Metal Liberation Army or the Hearts and Minds Party that have now kind of maybe shifted to being a sort of pseudo-Japan first almost because of what they've seen from Gotham, or kind of taking that idea from the American political scene. Again, there's a lot that can be had here. That's not to say about the Bat family. The Bat family could legitimately grow here. Let's say Stain doesn't turn into the hero killer. Instead, he hears about Batman and what he's doing, and the fact that he doesn't have powers, he goes to Gotham, thinking, hey, I'm going to get a second chance. Goes to try and find Batman. And more or less kind of gives Batman his grievances about modern hero society, even kind of tells him, hey, there are these people who wanted to recruit me into this thing they were doing, and this is kind of why I wanted to tell you about this. Or in a weird way, kind of like, hey, this is what I want to do. Kind of create the Sons of Batman from the fucking animated movie, The Dark Knight, where essentially there's like a cult of personality now created by Batman. By not just the quirkless, but also those who are seen to have had quote-unquote evil quirks. I mean, hell, there's a lot that can be done here that I legitimately want to break into and really kind of get into it. But I'm just going to leave it at that, honestly, because legitimately, this is a really good story. And overall, I've rambled on long enough about this. Thank you all so very much for watching. As always, I've been Airsoft Al, and legitimately speaking, I hope you guys actually do check this guy out. Sadly, I cannot post any links because of YouTube's bullshit. But if you guys want to see this yourself, I have obviously put up enough screenshots of this thing, or at least you can go back to the beginning of the video, or just look up the title yourself, find the AO3 link, because screw fanfiction.net, it's a dying site, it needs to die. Or at least get put under new management and actually be revitalized to something that we can legitimately enjoy. And, yeah. As always, ladies and gentlemen, I've been Airsoft Al, and I shall see you all in the next media review. Till next time, later.